Well, the first step to some great food is having great knife skills, not spinning them around like Chris Burgess.
I'm just getting started. That's why Kyle Armitage is with us today. Kyle Armitage is going to join us.
The stuff we say during the break, you know.
We need a whole behind the scenes so people get our
good
inside
ways
jokes.
to use these things. That's not a knife. This is a knife. You want to start with how we sharpen them?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the first things that that any good cook should do, whether they're at home or maybe a student wanting to learn more, or that guide to become a professional, is good knife skills. So I thought we do so much food when we come in, and let's start at the fundamentals. Let's go back to the basics. So we talked about this. A lot of times is the first knife that somebody grabs when they want to start to cut. Well, this has its purpose. This is that paring knife, and we use it for a lot of detailed kind of things. But we want to move on from that. This one has to get put down, and we have to move into our French knives. So the standard French knife that we start with is the 10-inch French knife, and it feels like you should be going through a jungle with it usually when you first start. But you do transition and get better with it as you go. And knives are hot right now, so there's a lot of different styles, different lengths, from the 6-inch, 7-inch, all the way up to, you can get a 12-inch French knife, which really feels like a weapon rather than a tool. So,
yes.
So what we want to do is, it's always really, really, really important that you have sharp knives. And can you tell me why?
So that it makes your job easier.
Exactly.
Cutting.
Exactly, right?
Yay.
So if your knife is not sharp, you have to put a lot of pressure down. And as soon as that knife gets enough pressure, it will go through quickly. And then you have a safety issue or a trip to the hospital or one less ring finger to get married with. So we want to make sure that those knives are sharp, and we use this on a daily basis. Now, a lot of people will call this a sharpener, but it's actually not. What this is a honing steel. So if you looked at a French knife or any knife under a microscope, you see these, they call them micro serrations. So it looks like a little mini serrated knife, and as you work with it, they kind of get off a little bit. They end up kind of getting a little bit crooked. So what this steel does is it brings it back into shape so it feels more sharp. The honing steel doesn't really remove any of the metal from the knife. It kind of just bends it back in order. Now, there's lots of different ways to use this. I'll show you the way that I was taught, and I'll show you a couple of other different ways. But one thing you want to do is use the whole steel on the entire knife. And this is your favorite part, right? We generally go with what's considered a 20-degree angle. So you about there, and then you lift it up maybe a half an inch on the other end. So whatever non-dominant hand you have, it puts in your hand, and you keep it like in cement. It doesn't move. So this part doesn't fly around. And the knife goes from the heel of the knife, and they want the tip to fall off down here. So you start up here, and you just kind of do a little chicken wing here. You throw your elbow out. And then I like to do both sides evenly, so I'll do the bottom. And again, just each side evenly. And you'll do this a lot as you work, 5, 6 times in a day if you're continually using your knives. And go slow. It's not about speed. Are you ready? Plug your ears. It's not about speed, but you do get better as you're working. Now, some people will go away from them. I'm not comfortable with that just because I don't use that way, but that's totally safe and will work. Some people will put it down and pull towards themselves, and that works as well. So there's multiple ways to do it. Okay, good. And you really will notice a difference in how that knife feels and how it works.
Yeah. Are we done? Are we done with that noise?
Yeah. Can we just leave this for me, please? Like so.
Anytime I'm annoying him, he's just going to be sharpening.
So the big thing with knife skills is practice. I always tell my students or anybody that I'm training is these are an instrument, right? And do you guys play an instrument?
Oh, yeah. No.
No, we're not very musically talented.
Larson, you play...
I played piano.
Right, so
I played the drum.
Let's say the first time you played piano, you just didn't sit down and jump into Mozart, right? It took a while and took practice. These are essentially an instrument. If you played a trumpet the first time you put it up, just air came out. There wasn't even any noise. And this takes time and it takes practice, and it's a skill, and you do it over and over and over and over. So I like to break it down into 3 separate areas. One is the grip, so whichever dominant hand you have your grip. Then you have your guide, and then you have your movement. So we'll talk about those 3 today, and then we'll let you guys safely cut. So with grip, a couple of things you don't do. This is what I call the death grip. This will get you 40 years in prison. So we don't do the death grip. I call this one the Pointer Sister. So this is another one that I'm not a big fan of. So if you got any Pointer Sister songs in your head? I don't
No.
remember which
Nope.
ones they are. So the one I really like is you take these 2 fingers and you pinch the blade and then you wrap your 3 fingers around it. This gives you nice inline motion with your hand. It gives you the ability to give a lot of pressure down if you're cutting through those sweet potatoes or rutabagas. So it does take a little bit of work, right? Sometimes it's unlearning to get those right knife skills. So we have our grip, okay? Now our guide hand is really important because this is the one that usually gets the damage if it's not in the right position. So what I say is make a C with your hand and then turn it down with your thumb back. So this way your fingernails are in, your knuckles are out, and that way you don't have it. A lot of people will turn their thumb out, and I was a slow learner as a student. I cut my thumb quite a few times.
Oh.
So we pull that thumb back, we put it down on the board, and we use that thumb as our anchor point. But when we first start, we're just going to keep the guide hand out of the way. The last part of this is movement. And you and I were talking about not lifting your knife up and that kind of thing. You know, it's not the Muppets where we're, you know, Swedish chefing it and stuff is flying. We want that knife to be on the board and just that movement. We want to cut away from ourselves. So we have a beautiful long knife that's really, really sharp, and we're going to let the knife do the work. So even if we're cutting a piece of celery, we don't want to go straight down on the celery. We want the knife to be able to do the work. And you just slowly push that celery,
Oh my gosh,
knife
it's so
through the celery.
smooth.
Yeah.
and it works. I mean, it's great with a nice sharp knife, and you'll know this. So that movement becomes important. So again, grip, guide, and movement. You'll notice my guide hand when I start is just out of the way, and then essentially you just slide that piece of celery. And celery works great to keep it out of the way. It's nice and stable. And like I said, it's a skill. It takes a little bit of practice and some consciousness to do it. Now, when we work that guide hand in, this tells us how thick, how even, and how fast we can essentially go. So we should maybe even reverse here. Why do we want nice knife cuts in the first place? What does it matter?
Cooks better.
It does. It cooks more evenly. So if we have a giant piece and a small piece, we know that one's going to be crunchy and one's going to be overcooked. Why else?
Looks good.
It looks good. Food should, I always say food should be sexy, right? And the best part is a nice knife cut. It starts at the beginning so that those really, everybody's like, oh, I want to do this great sauce and I'm going to create an Eiffel Tower out of caramelized sugar, but they have poor knife cuts. You're kind of getting ahead of yourself there. So we want food to look good and taste good, as well as cook evenly. So that's part. So when we start to work our guide hand in there, this tells us how big or how small based on how quickly we move our fingers back. So I got my C, I put it down on the celery, and I'm actually just running the knife on this kind of first knuckle there. And then I let my fingers decide how thick or how thin they're going to be by how quickly I'm pulling back. Now, it's hard to see, but I'm kind of parallel parking this knife. Some people will move the celery or the carrot or whatever they're working with in. You want that food to stay stable. And my knife is going forward, over, and back. So I'm kind of like micro parallel parking this knife as I'm
parallel.
Yeah.
I'm
So if I
terrified
move
of cutting myself on TV.
if I move my fingers real slow, I get real thin slices. And if I move my fingers faster, I get thicker slices.
How is your celery staying down without
Movement. So you got a real sharp, short knife here. Use that nice knife to, there you go. Lots of movement. Perfect.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Perfect.
Okay.
So we move into, again, a rough chop, and we can get into some of the specific knife cuts as you work. I was going to bring a demo of different ones, but I don't think we have time for that. Maybe on the next
time.
show.
Okay.
But I brought some carrots for you guys, and one of the cool tricks I always love to show, obviously I peeled yours for you. We have our magic vegetable peeler here, and a lot of people will just do, the general, the peel. So it's swiveled, it's sharp on both sides. So in a commercial kitchen, we work fast. Everything we do needs to be quick. So it goes back and forth. You can cut both directions on it.
I've done that wrong the whole time.
So if you're starting out and you're into prep or something like that, and your first job of the day is going to be to cut 50 pounds of carrots,
Yeah.
you gotta work fast. So we get paid by the carrot slice. We want to make sure that we're working quick. So now with a round vegetable, we want to be careful. We want to make sure that we have a nice sharp knife and we're using our good quality here. Now, we're going to make what's called rondelles here. And again, it's that nice even cut. Rondelle simply means a round. And using our beautiful movements, we can get those nice slices. From this, another one that we can do is called a diagonal or a bias cut. So we turn that carrot sideways and we get a nice long slice. And I love these for, hummus is really popular right now. You can do a little appetizer using this as the base of it. So again, that grip, that guide, that movement all becomes real important as you work. Now, as you get better and as you progress, obviously we keep our board clean. I'm not doing a great job of it here, but
ankle ones are hard.
They're a little harder, right?
Yeah.
That sharp knife, that movement becomes real important because you let the knife do the work. You let the knife do the work. So check your grip there. You got your thumb going on.
Oh, I got to do my dealio.
And it's that unlearning process, going back to
that actually helped though.
To what you know.
That made it a lot
going
easier.
Away from what you know. See, I told you I'd feed you something this morning. A couple of things. We have our onion. I can show you a couple of different methods to do that. So everybody, speed is important. So we want to make sure that we're dicing and slicing and julienne appropriately. So quick and simple way to get that onion ready to work. If we're going to dice this, we take it, bring that knife, again, still good knife movement, good skills. Now we cut towards ourselves on this one. We generally don't, but get those nice separators in there. Some people will come back and cut again horizontally. I don't think that's necessary. And then when we come back and we use our nice movement, the onion falls right apart.
Wow, that is so much easier and less tears in the eyes too. It helps keep you distracted.
It seems like if you have a tough onion, you always cry, but if you do it fast, then there's not as many tears.
Wow. And let's remind people if they're interested in maybe sending their kids to your school.
We have a lot of stuff going on. We're a pretty active program with some summer activities. We do what's called the Culinary Intensive. So second week of June, it's really that career exploration camp. So students can come in, they stay on our campus, they cook with us, they bake with us, we do evening activities, we come up to Fargo, we take them out for a nice meal. We do a lot of stuff to kind of get that industry focus, that professional focus going for maybe high school kids or second career. We've had everybody from 16 up to the age of 50 come in and decide, hey, is this what I want to do as a career? We also work with high schools real closely on what we call Culinary Days. So coming up in March 20th, we invite usually FACS classes or foods classes to come in, and we do a whole day session with them where they're cooking, they're doing some culinary math. We do a lot of different activities for them, kind of that immersion thing to try to get students ready to go, because we have a lot of need in this industry for great cooks, great chefs. So yeah, that's our goal, is to train the industry for North Dakota.
I'm gonna go home and practice. The hubby's gonna be so happy that I'm cooking up a storm.
Kile, well done.
Thank you. Always good. Always good.
All right, stick around. Much more coming up right after this.